Welcome to The Explainer. If you're the kind of person who just loves figuring out how things really work behind closed doors, you are going to absolutely love this one. Today, we're taking something that, let's be honest, usually feels like a super dry, math heavy chore, corporate budgeting, and we're going to uncover the messy, fascinating behavioral science hiding right beneath all those spreadsheets.
So, to kick things off, I want you to think about this for a second. When you hear the word budgeting, what pops into your head? Do you immediately picture accountants, calculators, just rigid financial rules? Basically, is budgeting fundamentally a financial process?
Well, the answer is a resounding no. It's actually a managerial process. And yeah, I know that might totally interrupt your normal pattern of thinking, but it's absolutely true. Budgeting isn't just about adding up expenses. It's this vital managerial act of prioritizing resources to turn a 5-year vision into an immediate reality. Think about it like a government deciding whether to allocate funds to defense, healthcare, or education for the coming year. That's not just math, right? That's a series of critical managerial choices about what matters most to them.
Okay, let's dive right into our roadmap for today. We'll be covering, first, more than just numbers, then, the controller's true role. Third, the budgetary slack phenomenon. Fourth, the information asymmetry trap. 5, balancing motivation and control. And finally, number 6, the self-efficacy factor.
All right, section 1, more than just numbers, the visible structure. So, looking at the macro level here, we have the execution premium model. It's this renowned framework linking strategic planning straight to daily operations. The absolutely crucial realization here is that budgets are really just the tactical output of a much, much larger strategic plan. You literally can't just create a budget in a vacuum. It demands complete alignment across the entire organization. We're talking starting with the mission and vision, moving down to strategic objectives, and finally arriving at the operational plan and the actual budget. The budget is simply the vehicle that moves a company from where it is right now to its desired future.
Moving on to section 2, the controller's true role.
Now, a lot of people think the administration or the controller is the one responsible for setting financial targets and delivering the actual results. But that is a huge myth. The reality is that the controller just designs the calendar and marks the rhythm of the process. Think of the controller kind of like an orchestra conductor. The conductor doesn't actually play the violins or the horns themselves. They just make sure the rhythm is right, they coordinate the different sections, and they follow up to ensure everyone is playing the exact same piece of music. As you can see, the controller's actual roles are highly structured. They build the budgetary process, help out in revision and coordination, conduct follow-ups, and keep the main objectives centered. When different departments submit their numbers, the controller is the one who highlights inconsistencies. But, and this is key, they do not decide who gets what budget. That negotiation, that happens exclusively between the specific departments and general management.
So, to make all this actually happen smoothly, the controller has to carefully design the timeline while balancing a few really key factors. Obviously, a timeline that's way too short causes massive stress, right? Because people still have their normal daily jobs to do. But on the flip side, if a company has high organizational complexity, like, say, a massive multinational corporation, they're going to need a lot more time to consolidate data from different countries. Interestingly enough, though, if there is high industry uncertainty, you actually want shorter, much more realistic planning cycles. The controller has to constantly weigh all of these elements just to get the whole process off the ground.
All right, diving a bit deeper now into section 3, the budgetary slack phenomenon.
Enter the fascinating concept of budgetary slack. Now, in Spanish business terminology, they actually use a highly relatable word for this, colchones, which literally translates to cushions. It's that completely universal temptation to pad your deadlines or your estimates. Basically, it's the gap between what an employee proposes they can do and the most accurate, realistic estimation of what they can actually pull off.
So, how exactly are these cushions created? Well, interestingly, it happens the exact moment employee participation is requested. Employees might intentionally underestimate their goals so they can hit their targets super easily. Or maybe they overestimate the resources they need just to secure a significantly larger budget. Often, this is driven by very understandable human nature and personal benefit, specifically incentive bonuses. Because let's face it, if hitting a specific target triggers a nice bonus, an employee is highly, highly motivated to make that target as easy to reach as humanly possible. Which leads us right into section 4, the information asymmetry trap.
Okay, so one of the absolutely most critical organizational variables determining these cushions is information asymmetry.
Simply put, the local manager or the subordinate knows way more about the day-to-day reality on the ground than their boss does. It just makes sense, right? But this creates a massive blind spot for management. The boss doesn't know the true performance potential, so the employee can use that knowledge advantage to actively lower expectations. Moving on to Section 5, balancing motivation and control. As you might guess, there's a ton of inherent friction in this process. It's often visualized as this planning, motivation, and control triangle. You see, planning demands harsh realism, but motivation, that often requires stretching reality a bit, being more demanding to inspire greatness, or letting employees participate so they feel real ownership. This dynamic forces management to decide exactly how much control to exert. Because remember, the more you let employees participate, the higher the risk they're going to build in those cochones, or cushions. Looking at this matrix developed by researcher Hanan Etiennat really helps build a great framework for solving this problem. Smart organizations decide exactly how much employee participation to allow based on two simple questions. First, does management already have all the info? And second, how much employee commitment is actually required? If management knows everything and the task requires very low commitment, think like a toll booth operator, you just reduce participation. But if management is lacking information and high employee commitment is needed, say if you're expanding into a brand new foreign country where local knowledge is key, then employee participation is absolutely essential, even if it means you risk getting some of that budgetary slack. And finally, we arrive at Section 6, the self-efficacy factor. Yeah, this is pretty cool. Researchers at Universitas Erlangga set up a really brilliant experiment to test this. They had participants act as production managers for a fictional company called PT Pesawat Koko, which was basically making paper airplanes. First, they tracked baseline production over 2 minutes just to find the real potential. Then, they actively hid the actual results of some participants from the boss. They purposefully created high information asymmetry, just to see if the participants would lowball their future targets for extra bonus pay. So, the researchers hypothesized that self-efficacy, which is basically a person's core faith in their own abilities to overcome challenges, would completely reduce the urge to manipulate the system. Theoretically, highly confident employees don't feel any need to build cushions, right? Well, the study's results were actually incredibly eye-opening. It turned out that even managers with high self-efficacy still took full advantage of the high information asymmetry to create budgetary slack. That temptation of having a blind spot and scoring an easy bonus, it is universally strong no matter how confident you are. So as we've seen, budgeting is clearly not just some boring math exercise. It is a profound reflection of human behavior, organizational trust, and managerial control. Considering everything we've unpacked today, from the structural rhythm of the controller to the powerful psychological temptations of information asymmetry, how does your company balance trust and control? It's definitely something to think about the next time you're asked to submit your departmental estimates. Thanks so much for exploring this explainer with me today, and I'll catch you in the next one.